See, this is nice. Everyone's got round tables. It feels good. Chairs look comfy. It's going to be a good day.
You're really worried about making sure everyone's comfortable,
Yes, when people are stuck watching panel after panel, those chairs better be comfortable.
Right, no one's stuck. Let's be clear.
They better be comfortable. This chair's very comfortable, but we won't get into that.
Well, Colin, I want to start with you actually, and to talk a little about this John Candy doc and how it started, how you decided you wanted to get this off the ground.
I had a conversation with Ryan Reynolds, who was the producer on the movie, and he volleyed a very interesting sort of question. He says, he basically is like, I don't want to live in a world where there's not a documentary about John Candy. I don't know what that movie is. I don't know what it's about, but I just think there should be one. And it was a great sort of artistic, launching point of, okay, yeah, I agree with that statement completely. But what is that, what is that story? What is the actual arc of the narrative film? Because otherwise it's just going to be a Wikipedia entry of, and then he made Brewster's Millions, and that's not really interesting or engaging to watch. So he gave me the opportunity to really dig in and try and find something that was engaging to me, not only as a storyteller, but also just as a human, to try and find something that I could, a story that I could tell that resonated with me.
Definitely. And I mean, when you guys got so many incredible people involved, was that an easy task for people to say yes? I'm curious because I feel like a lot of people love John Candy, so maybe they were excited to chat about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, there was it cuts both ways. I mean, we were very fortunate that everyone wanted to speak with us, and everyone was very eager to talk about John and to celebrate John. The issue is that they're all incredibly famous and incredibly busy, and so the schedule ended up being really our biggest kind of obstacle. And then there was a strike, a couple of strikes going on at the same time, and I was thinking like, oh great, we could actually get, it's like everyone's going to be available. And they were like, no, we're all on vacation. No. So, the schedule really ended up just being the biggest issue. But everyone was very eager. And Martin Short said very early on, he says, your biggest problem is that no one is going to say no. And having made a few docs before, I know if you take enough time with somebody and then you don't include them in the documentary, that's a very awkward email you have to write. So I was very, very cognizant of that at all times.
It's a hard struggle to have. Isabel, what about you? What made you want to tell Selena's story? I mean, her story has been told many times, so taking a different point of view, taking a new angle on it. Can you talk a little about your approach?
Yeah, so I'm a Mexican immigrant. I grew up between two cultures, and I think Selena always represented something crucial for my sense of self and self-worth, and I always really kind of looked up to her. Like, she was always really symbolically important to me. So, but I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be able to make a film about her, quite frankly. I made my first film, went to Sundance, and in the wake of its release, the family reached out to me, and it was like, I mean, I'm still kind of reeling from it. It still feels pretty surreal. And I was initially kind of like, I don't know, I guess I didn't know what more could be said. It's a story that we all know, and in many ways has been mythologized. But what I hadn't realized is that the family had never shared their personal archives, and so, and they hadn't shared it in the 30 years since she had died. So they invited me and my team down to Corpus Christi, and the second I saw the archive, it became, my main purpose, my main passion for the last 4 years, and it's just been the honor of my career to do that.
Amazing. What was the process of working with her family? What was, the challenges of that and things that were maybe easier than you thought?
I was really impressed and just by their openness and willingness to share their story with me and with the world. It was also challenging because we, over the years, I got to understand that this symbol, this person that had become a symbol for me was a real person to them. And it was a sister, and it was a daughter, and it was a wife, and it was a friend, and it was all these things that Selena was, a young girl who died. I'm like staggered by the age at which she died. She was 23 years old. And so I think that holding that space for their ongoing grief, while also wanting to introduce her story to the world, it's a really hard and fine line to it's a hard needle to thread. I'm sure both directors can relate to just kind of the challenge of making a documentary about a public person. You're having to navigate these two things at the same time, the personal life and the personal implications of telling a person's story, while also wanting to honor what they meant to so many people. So I think that was the most challenging thing about doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, telling the story of Charlie Sheen, of course, he is alive and he is here to tell his story. I guess to start, what made you want to be the person to put that story out there? Especially because, similarly, there is a lot out there. I mean, the news has covered Charlie Sheen for years, and people think they know the truth. So what made you want to tell this?
Yeah, well, he got John Candy, so he was not available to me to do that. Two peas in a pod, those two. No, I just, I was watching a lot of these sort of like icon stories and celebrity stories, and I thought to myself, knowing who I am as a filmmaker and knowing the things that interest me, I was like, I wonder if somebody would be around that might not have, such a celebratory story. Like, is there a celebrity? And Charlie Sheen was always in my mind as someone that just felt very one of one to me and kind of fit tonally into the mindset that I have as a filmmaker, whether it be just sort of like diving into the darkest depths, but with a sense of humor sometimes, and it's just things I love. And so I literally just said to myself, like, I wonder what Charlie Sheen's up to. And he was available. Like,
Everyone does.
that was for sure. So that made things a little easier. I didn't have to worry about scheduling with him. The strike did not affect him. And so we met each other and we got to know each other. It was just as important for me to get to know him, probably as it was for him to get to know me, because I didn't know him and I didn't know whether I would be, just frankly making a story about a bad guy that did bad things or a good guy that got wrapped up in bad things or what. And so it was really important for me to learn that as I went and come to my own conclusions.
Absolutely. I mean, what conclusion did you come to? I think that's a fair question.
No, very fair.
Right?
Very
Absolutely.
fair question.
Fair question.
And I have a very, very clear personal answer that this is the story of an addict that goes to the deepest depths of addiction that you can go to without dying. There's no question about it. But throughout the way of his addiction, there was always a good guy in there and always a good person in there that genuinely cares about the people around him. And I think that without me having to explain that, an indication of that is the people that showed up for the documentary. You don't show up if this is a person that you genuinely believe is not worth showing up for. And I was amazed at the people that were willing to sit for this, knowing the wreckage that he caused. And I thought that was a really clear indication for me of the type of person that he actually was. And the complications there, it's like, people aren't binary, and I think that he lives in a gray area much of his life, and I think that that's an interesting thing to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many docs out there and done in different formats, whether it's multiple episodes, whether it's a film, whether, any kind of angle. But I'm curious for you guys, what to you makes a good doc? People who know this world very well, and what did you bring into that? That's a quality of a good documentary that you really wanted to take on, Colin?
I think you want to be able to present someone who is incredibly well known and present a side of them that the audience does not know. I think whenever you're able to sort of, peel back a curtain, whatever saying you want to use, but you want to be able to show the audience what it was the person was going through at that time so that it can change their viewpoint as to their first impression of the person, or a preconceived notion of the person, or or just what the media tells you about the person. I think you're constantly trying to unveil humanity in some way, shape, or form, and that can be challenging, especially when the events are salacious or tragic or just fun. I mean, that was the hardest thing with John Candy is how do you make a film about someone who's just universally beloved, who didn't really have a dark side or these horrible demons that that took his life. John was melded by circumstance. And the very things that we celebrate about the man, his heart, his generosity, his kindness, his skill as a comedian, those were all born of coping mechanisms that were instilled in him at the age of 5. And he was just getting to the point in his young life, because he died at 43, which is absurdly young. But he was just getting to the point where he was starting to dig into those things and ask those questions of himself. And so it was important for us to be able to highlight those, what were those things that were ailing John? Because ultimately, at the same time, I thought it was a really interesting juxtaposition. The audience would look at John and think, oh, well, that's us. He's just like us. And learning that he struggled with anxiety and learning that he had struggled with, the loss of his father at a young age and father figures and wanting to constantly people please, I thought, well, that's the most relatable thing I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. And I never thought that about John Candy. I just thought he was always gregarious and great. I didn't realize that he had his own demons, which we all do. So you just want to bring the humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, I think documentaries aren't always equated with like films, and so for me, like I love watching a documentary where I feel like I'm in the hands of someone that's making a film, like I just love that. Like I think I'm up here with 2 directors that do that, and so a lot of times, especially in the doc space, like I actually care a lot less personally about the story when I'm seeing something, because there's so many great stories. Like I can convince myself that any story is incredible, but it's like how you tell it. So for me, I think it's all about finding things that aren't just like fitting the template of how a story should be told or a doc should be told, and just like being taken on a ride. That's always, and like I watch so many things. I love consuming things like reality TV all the way to docs that win Oscars. And so I think that for me, it's just all about like what kind of hands am I in and who's taking me on the ride, and do I feel as though I'm being taken somewhere that I wouldn't have done or that I wouldn't be able to do, or that it's uniquely for them,
Sure, absolutely. Isabel?
Yeah, I think my answer is an extension of both of theirs, which is just that I think I respond best and try to make films that are really emotionally honest, whether it's the people that you're filming with or your own kind of self-expression of what you're experiencing or witnessing as a filmmaker, as a person who's telling that story. So I really try to aspire towards emotional honesty.
So important. I guess for any of you who want to answer, what was the thing that stood out to you when you were telling these stories that you thought, there's no way this is getting cut? Like, was there one story that you were like, we are maybe building around this, or we are focusing on...
Charlie Sheen slept with men.
I was assuming that would be that one, but I thought...
I'm kidding, that's not it.
Yeah, you had many. There was many stories you couldn't cut out. I feel like all of you did, honestly. There are a lot of important
Well, he had
stories.
a 2-parter. Yeah. He's got time to tell him. He's got the time. Wow, that's hard. That's actually hard, because I think with docs, I mean, my experience is you're a detective, so you're not sitting there just making your movie in 2 weeks and then you sort of amass everything. You're constantly unveiling what the story is, and you're constantly the film eventually over time presents itself, and your story sort of presents itself, and the best thing that I can ever hope to do is have a good enough idea, a good enough starting point that I can then con enough other people to hold hands with me as I jump off that bridge. And then as you sort of, I mean, we were actually just talking about this before. As you start amassing your interviews, you start amassing your footage, you then find things like B-roll of childhood movies that Charlie Sheen made, or you find those home movies of Selena, and those things end up sort of adding up to greater sequences. You know, I could break down, you know, yeah, I really wish we could have had, you know, this one particular shot, but we couldn't afford it, you know, whatever like that. We couldn't afford the licensing. But eventually you sort of break your films up into, or I break my films up into these little pods, and it's like, if I can just keep those 3 minutes. Sure. What those 3 minutes are now, I can't tell you. But at the time, it's very important.
Sure. Sure. What about you, Isabel?
I tried to build the film around the personal home videos that the family had of Selena, because you really got to know her in a way that I felt like people hadn't seen before. So all that just kind of the raw footage, home videos where you're just getting the essence of her personality, that was basically the infrastructure that upheld the whole film that we built around.
And Andrew, do you have a specific one?
No, there's definitely not, like, I think that when you fall in love with things because of probably what connects to you, like, whether I know it or not, I tend to end up making movies about fathers and sons a lot, whether it's conscious or subconscious, I have no idea. But so I think for me, once I got to sit with Martin Sheen to watch the first cut that I had put together, just to show it to him, but also to see if he wanted to be in it. And it was a intense experience. But I remember that the decision afterwards was like, this is Charlie's movie, and I love this movie. Like, you don't need me sitting here in an interview, you know, at my age, reliving these things, because, like, I found a way to make him feel alive in the movie without being in it. And that was, I think for me, was a really fun exercise, and kind of the thing where I was like, I need to figure out a way to make these movies exist in my movie. And, like, I have to figure out, because there's never been a, you know, I mean, you would know this, there's never been a father-son relationship, I think, that's been on screen as much as those two potentially. I don't know. I couldn't point to it, and I was like, so interesting for me to figure that out and to say, like, how can I make this? And also their relationship on screen was always a reflection of the real life. Yeah. It was so weird. It's always the wayward son that's kind of screwed up, and the dad with lots of principles telling him not to screw up. And I was like, what an incredible opportunity just to tell their story with these things. So I think that was, like, a clear thing for me. It's like, how can I make this work? Like, how can I have this exist in my movie?
Yeah, absolutely. And you did without, like you said, without having Martin sit down and do an interview, which is so impressive. All right, we're about to wrap up, but I want to ask each of you quickly, what is there a subject, whether it's a very far chance of happening or a possibility, that you would really want to do a doc on? Is there one that stands out to you? Isabel, do you want to start?
There's so many. Well, I really want to make a trilogy about powerful Latina musicians, and I really want to make a film about Shakira. So
yes,
Shakira, if you're listening to this,
it's manifested now. Let's do it.
I will watch that. I mean, I guess I was happy that in the process of making Charlie, I met Heidi Fleiss, and I'm almost done my Heidi Fleiss movie, and I didn't think that I'd ever make a Heidi Fleiss movie, amazing. So that was cool. But I think in terms of, like, pie in the sky, oh man, I mean, there's a bunch that I feel that kind of get me excited. He didn't show up for this one, so my pie in the sky is Nick Cage. Like, I really want to go on an adaptation, Nick Cage. Like, what is this? Is this real or fake documentary? Like, I'd love.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great.
He, like, might be here. He's the kind of guy that would just be in the audience watching a panel about docs for no reason. So if you're here, Nick, please, let's make a movie.
All right, Colin.
I want to work catering on their movies.
You're hired.
Yeah, no, it's impossible for me to answer that question. I feel bad ending with that, so that's why I came up with the zinger. I I don't know. It's hard because you have these goals, these dreams of like, it would be great to tell this story, great to be that story, but I've done this long enough to also know that first instinct sometimes cannot necessarily be the correct one. And so for me, I like to just keep myself open and find whatever story comes around. It's a lame answer, I know that. But you guys also don't understand how much I love craft service and catering. So and there's not really catering on documentaries or craft service, to be quite honest. So I got you guys so many gummies. Don't worry. I got candy bars. I got chips. I got at least 2 different flavors. It's going to be great.
It's a really important job.
Yeah.
Someone has to do it.
Yeah.
You guys so much
you.
for being here.
Thank
you
you
all for coming.
Thank you.